Namaskar. Welcome to the 15th episode of Grantha Yatra. Today I am going to tell you the story of Yamu. In fact, she has herself written it down. And it had been serially published in the erstwhile magazine Karmanuk in the year 1893. Yamuna, also known as Yamu, is a woman belonging to a middle-class family in Pune in the late 19th century. A naive and curious Yamu who possessed a highly perceptive mind, and the hardships she had to face in her life are representative of the dependent and exploited status of women in those times. That is the reason why Yamu's story still captivates the readers today, just as it was eagerly lapped up by the readers 125 years ago. This Yamu is the protagonist in the novel Pan Lakshat Kon Gheto, written by Hari Narayan Apte. Hari Bhau, as he was fondly called, was an extraordinary writer. He wrote 23 novels, including 12 social and 11 historical tales. And these are no ordinary novels. Each of them creates a vividly different and highly plausible world. He presents the novel Pan Lakshat Kon Gheto in the form of self-narration by Yamu. He introduces the narrative as a manuscript written by the sister of one of his friends, which he happened to see and decided to publish. However, the autobiography was incomplete because of the untimely death of the writer, and so Hari Bhau requested the writer's brother to write the concluding chapter. Hari Bhau includes that chapter and a letter written by this brother in the concluding pages of the novel. This very imaginative background led the contemporary readers to believe that it was indeed a tale narrated by a woman. And in this way, it became the first self-narrated novel in Marathi written in the first-person narrative style. More importantly, it is the first realistic novel in Marathi. Hari Bhau was instrumental in pushing the Marathi novel from the world of fantasy to realism. He wrote novels based on the contemporary society. His novels tackled various social issues, especially women's pitiful condition, the conflict between social reformists and fundamentalists, the clash between the younger and the older generation, among others. His writing was influenced by thinkers such as Mahadev Govinda Ranade and Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Gopal Ganesh Agarkar were his teachers. In the novel Pan Lakshat Kon Gheto too, he focuses on several social problems of the time. Women's dependent status in the absence of access to education, atrocities faced by women because of the patriarchal society, and the inferior status accorded to them by the society is of course the main theme of the novel. But in addition, he also dwells on issues such as opposition to social reforms, desperation faced by the members of joint families, and absence of individual freedom. It highlights how a valueless society leads to the destruction of several good people. The most attractive characteristic of this novel is Hari Bhau's style of writing. It is so well developed that it keeps the readers engaged even when the novel does not have any thrilling episodes. When writing as a woman narrating her own story, Hari Bhau uses the typical language used by the contemporary women, their mannerisms, and the aphorisms and proverbs commonly used by them. And this writing is so natural that the reader does not find it unrealistic. For instance, in the episode where Yamu's family is returning from a visit to another town, her brother gets separated from others. When they are reunited, this passage follows. When we had thus narrated our accounts to each other, we quickly approached that well. There, mother fed us a meal. She also offered dashmis to Krishnaji Pant. I told her all about my prayers. Hearing this, my brother began to laugh aloud. I got angry and said, "Why do you laugh at me? All right, I shall never tell you anything in future." On hearing me say this, he began to laugh even more and said, "Dear Yamu, all said and done, you are only a woman. All you can do is keep sobbing and praying. I did not do any such thing. In fact, I wrapped the stole around my ears to hide my gold earring and went about inquiring in great style. Who cares for your style? Had you met some rogue driver like I did, all your style would have vanished. No way. If he would have lifted me up, I would have bit him fiercely on his arm. I wouldn't have kept weeping like you. Look at how he talks. All he knows is to make tall claims. But you are a coward and need protection. And look how you tell others not to tell tales. I felt very sad hearing my brother say that. I said to mother, "Look, mother, how he is teasing me." Mother made us stop fighting. My brother looked at her and kept quiet. Then we reached home at the appointed time. There are many other women characters in this novel besides the protagonist Yamu. The smart and fearless Durgi, who is later reduced to skin and bones because of the atrocities meted out to her by her heartless husband. The young Mai, who pretends to be a matron for selfish gains. The wise and congenial mother of Yamu. Her pure-hearted mother-in-law. Her sister-in-law, who is abandoned by her husband and so is never at peace. The pious aunt who suffers her husband's whims with fortitude. The educated Lakshmi Bai and Yashoda Bai who advocate social reforms. All these women are portrayed with their individual personalities. This variety is also evident in the male characters. Shankar Mamanji, Gopal Mamanji, Yamu's brother, Raghunath Rao, Yamu's father, Durgi's husband. They all have different characters and varied ways of speaking. The novel begins with the scene of the doll's marriage. Yamu, her friends, and her brother are thoroughly enjoying their play. They have been preparing for this for many days. When the children are shouting and laughing at the top of their voice, Yamu's father returns from home unexpectedly and angrily orders the children to stop playing. He shouts at the children and hits them. Yamu's friends return to their own homes and Yamu and her brother escape to the top floor of their house. They are struck by disappointment when they were at the peak of happiness. This incident is indicative of the entire plot of the novel and of Yamu's life itself. The story progresses as Yamu and her brother grow up and their destinies shape their individual lives. The threads of their lives intermingle with each other and with the lives of the others, weaving the complex tapestry of the narrative. Haribau's writing skills are not limited to creating a mere entertaining storyline. Through this novel, he succeeds in establishing timeless truths about human nature. The characters in this novel do not remain confined to the contemporary time period or the problems related to it. They reveal the fundamental truths about human emotions, thoughts, and interpersonal relationships. Their actions lead us to the origins of human emotions and inspirations. Even when circumstances change, these origins of inspirations do not change. That is the reason why the characters in Haribau's novel seem alive and natural even today. Even when the social references used in the novel have mostly altered today, it reflects a timeless image of human life, and the novel continues to be appealing to the readers of today. Let us hear from Professor Rajendra Naikwade about some more literary characteristics of this novel.
पण लक्षात कोण घेतो ही जी कादंबरी त्यांची, जी मला असं वाटतं की आधुनिक मराठी कादंबरीचंही जनकत्व या कादंबरीला आपल्याला देता येतं. आधुनिक मराठीतल्या वास्तववादी कादंबरीच्या प्रवाहाचंही जनकत्व त्याच्याकडे जातं आणि आधुनिक मराठी कादंबरीतल्या सामाजिक जाणीवेच्या प्रवाहाचंही जनकत्व हरिभाऊंच्या पण लक्षात कोण घेतो मध्ये जातं. 88 प्रकरणामध्ये हरिभाऊंनी लिहिलेली कादंबरी म्हणजे यमुना उर्फ यमू नावाच्या तत्कालीन स्त्रीच्या दुःखाची कहाणी, दुःखाची व्यथा. तत्कालीन एकूण स्त्री जातीचं प्रातिनिधिक रूप आपल्याला यमुनेमध्ये पाहायला मिळतं. 12व्या वर्षी विवाह झालेली आणि नंतर संपूर्ण तिचं जीवन चरित्र एका वेगळ्या शैलीमध्ये हरिभाऊ त्या कादंबरीतून कथन करतात, जी शैली अत्यंत वाचनीय आणि रोचक आपल्याला आजही वाटते. म्हणजे पात्रमुखी निवेदन शैलीचा उपयोग करून आणि यमूच्या मुखातून आणि शेवटच्या 1-2 प्रकरणांमध्ये तिच्या भावाच्या मुखातून आणि अशी आत्मकथनात्मक म्हणजे पात्राच्या आत्मकथनात्मक निवेदन शैलीचा वापर करणारी अत्यंत प्रभावी कादंबरी हरिभाऊ लिहितात असं आपल्याला जाणवतं. अशा पद्धतीने हरिभाऊंचं योगदान आपल्याला अधोरेखित करावं लागतं. त्या कालखंडामध्ये 2 धारा आपल्या समाजामध्ये आणि नवजागरणाच्या प्रबोधनाच्या वाहताना दिसतात. एक सामाजिक अशा प्रकारची धारा, दुसरी राष्ट्रीय अशा प्रकारची धारा. त्या दोन्ही धारांचं प्रतिनिधित्व किंवा त्या दोन्ही धारांचं समन्वय आपल्याला हरिभाऊंच्या व्यक्तिमत्वामध्ये आणि त्यांच्या साहित्य कृतीमध्ये पाहायला मिळतो. ऐतिहासिक कादंबरीच्या रूपाने राष्ट्रीय अस्मितेची आणि जागृती, राष्ट्रीय अस्मितेचे जागरण करण्याचा ते प्रयत्न करतात. एकीकडे विष्णू शास्त्र्यांचे आणि टिळकांचे अनुयायी म्हणून आणि दुसऱ्या बाजूला पण लक्षात घेतो सारख्या आणि सामाजिक कादंबऱ्यांची निर्मिती करतात आगरकरांचे अनुयायी म्हणून, आगरकरांचे शिष्य म्हणून. आणि हे जे हा जो समन्वय आपल्याला हरिभाऊंमध्ये दिसतो तो अतिशय महत्वाचा आहे आणि त्याच्यामुळेच पण लक्षात कोण घेतोचं सुद्धा महत्व आहे. त्या कालखंडामध्ये आणि आजच्याही कालखंडामध्ये जी स्त्रियांची स्थिती आहे आणि त्या स्त्रियांच्या स्थितीचं वर्णन अत्यंत प्रभावी पद्धतीने करून एक प्रकारे सर्व प्रश्न त्यांनी या मराठी वाचकांसमोर मांडलेले दिसतात. आणि ही कादंबरी जी निर्माण होते त्या कादंबरीची प्रासंगिकता आजही आपल्याला जाणवते. म्हणजे त्यातला जो विरोधन्यास याचा सुंदर उपयोग हरिभाऊ करतात की एका पात्रासमोर दुसरं पात्र जे उभं करतात ते विरोधी स्वभावाचं पात्र उभं करतात आणि ह्यातून एक संघर्ष नाट्य, एक जीवनाचं, मानवी जीवनाचं एक सनातन अशा प्रकारचं, जे नित्यनूतन अशा प्रकारचं, अधुनातन अशा प्रकारचं ठरेल असं भावविश्व मानवी नातेसंबंधांचं ते जे उभं करतात ते काळाच्या सीमा ओलांडून पुढे जाताना आपल्याला दिसतं. म्हणून आपल्याला अलीकडच्या कालखंडामध्ये स्त्रीवादी साहित्याच्या अभ्यासक प्रभा गणोरकर या कादंबरीवर लिहिताना त्या कादंबरीचं मर्म विशद करतात आणि त्या कादंबरीच्या मोठेपणाला नमस्कार करतात. त्या असं म्हणतात की यमूपेक्षा सुद्धा त्यांना दुर्गी ही नाव, हे जे दुसरं पात्र आहे स्त्रीचं पात्र, ते त्यांना जास्ती प्रातिनिधिक आणि आजच्या कालखंडाला जास्ती प्रासंगिक त्यांना वाटतं. हा त्यांचा दृष्टिकोन आहे. अशा हरिभाऊंच्या स्मृतींना मी विनम्र अभिवादन करतो. धन्यवाद. नमस्कार.
After hearing so much about this novel, you must be eager for a glimpse from its text. Let us read one episode here. This incident occurs soon after Yamu and her husband arrive in Mumbai. Their neighbors are great supporters of social reforms. They all gather on the terrace every night and spend time in chatting. When Yamu is invited to join them for the first time, the state of her mind is described here. I started having butterflies in my stomach as the time approached 9 at night. Isn't it quite strange? Is there anything wrong if friends sit together along with their wives and spend time in talking? What harm can come out of it? But alas, our extraordinary eyes find grave fault even in such a practice. If we see a man and a woman talking, our dirty mind can think of nothing else but bad thoughts. Our minds have been conditioned by repeatedly teaching us that this is not a good thing. We can no longer see any purity or goodness in such a thing. Because of these circumstances, I was feeling very scared about things which are actually good and useful. What should I do when Yashodabai would come and ask me to accompany her? My mind began to debate whether I should go or not. By and by, Yashodabai arrived and said in the presence of my mother-in-law, "Come, let us go upstairs to Lakshmibai's place." I had already finished all my chores, so even my mother-in-law did not object. Yet I thought perhaps she did not want me to go. But it was all my imagination. Because she instead said, "Why don't you go and sit there for some time? I too am going to visit Gopika Bai for some time. Because if I lie down early, I fall asleep, but wake up in the middle of the night and then can't sleep again." This, of course, suited Yashodabai. She then began to hurry me up. So in the end, after much hesitation, I did accompany her. By the time Yashodabai and I went upstairs, Lakshmi Bai had finished her chores and was about to come down to take me upstairs with her. A round table had been placed on the terrace and an English lamp giving out a great deal of light was placed on it. There were 5 or 6 chairs around it and a couch was placed beyond. At the time, all 3 men were seated around it. When we reached upstairs, Lakshmi Bai held my hand and led me to the terrace. I felt extremely shy and pleaded with her not to take me there. But Yashoda Bai and Lakshmi Bai were in no mood to let me go. By the time we reached the door to the terrace, I felt very shy. But I knew there was no way out. So I steeled my mind, and before they could pull me onto the terrace, I followed them there. Yashoda Bai and Lakshmi Bai went straight ahead and sat down on the couch. I, of course, had no courage to sit down in the presence of so many men. In fact, all I wanted to do was run away. I stood with my back towards the place where the men were seated, but the 2 women began to urge me to sit down. Then Vishnumat said to Yashoda Bai, "Great, Sister Yashoda, this is a good move. You sit first and then ask the others to sit." "Why not? Didn't someone read out aloud yesterday that leading by example is better than mere preaching?" Lakshmi Bai said. Done. Both of us sat down to demonstrate it to her. "Why are you so shy? Please take a seat." Yashoda Bai, "Will she sit down at our request?" I quickly grasped what she was planning to say and I quickly sat down by saying, "That's all right. Don't you pull my leg." Then he himself said, "That's better. But why not face us? Why do you have to sit looking away from us?" Imagine how embarrassed I felt on hearing this. I even looked at him with an angry face. But I was sitting away from the lamp and facing away from him, so my anger was perhaps not even noticed. Anyway, after I was thus welcomed and established in the gathering, the members started talking among themselves while I kept mum. If this glimpse has aroused your curiosity, go ahead and read the entire novel. If you wish to read its digital version, the link is provided in the description below this video. This novel has also been translated into English with the name But Who Cares by Santosh Bhumkar. Do like and share this channel to spread the word and encourage others to subscribe for it. By now, you would have realized that we have now entered an important period in the history of India. Next Friday, we shall see how echoes of India's freedom struggle were heard through Marathi literature. Until then, keep reading.